Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NTV's weekly chat show, Talking Point. I'm your guest, Syed Neaz Ahmed. The world population is increasing, and so is the population of elderly people, men and women. It's a sign of concern, it's a sign of celebration. As we grow older, we have different demands. In our studios today, dear viewers, we have a lady who is president of Bangladesh-based Age Well Foundation. She is Mrs. Naeema Quayes. She is also the wife of our High Commissioner in London, Mr. Mejarul Quayes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you
Naeema,
very much.
how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Great to have you here.
Well, it's my pleasure.
I know you have been in London only for 4 months, but you have been very active. And I think only on Saturday, last Saturday, you had organized a large party, and you tried to raise funds and something like that.
It was a modest effort. I wouldn't say it was a very large party. What I tried to do is, like, we have 2 causes. One is the education of girls all across the world,
Right.
which we support through the Commonwealth Countries League, the CCL as it is known, every year, once a year. And the other one is to stop the trafficking of girls, boys, and women, and to reunite their families, which is called CFAB.
We see this in the greater perspective, not just Commonwealth countries.
That's right. So what I do is, since I'm here in London, and traditionally the ladies of the Bangladesh High Commission have supported these 2 causes.
Right.
But we do it through their international fair, CFAB, which was recently held, I think on the 14th and 15th of this month, and the CCL fair, which will be held in November.
Right.
We do take a stall, we try to sell things and raise money, but this was something extra that I did.
When you said we, it's the
ladies of the Bangladesh High Commission, basically. And but what I did this time is I did this extra, had this extra event to raise money on our own as Bangladeshis, you know, to support this cause, which is not usually done. I want to show that Bangladeshis can also give. We have a lot to give, not to just take.
Well, definitely we have a lot to give. We are very rich in culture. We have a very rich language. We have a rich
and
literature.
we are a generous society. We are a generous people.
Right. Right.
So I think people need to remember that.
Understand that.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
that must be brought to the focus of the
Exactly.
world.
Exactly.
Right, and probably London is the right place because this is the headquarters of the world media. Whatever happens, whatever is reported, if it's Dateline London, if it's something is shown on BBC or the media in London, usually, generally, people believe it to be true.
And it's usually negative. It's not, especially regarding Bangladesh's image or whatever Bangladesh does. You know, like someone, even very recently, 6 months ago, asked me, well, is there land there? Can one stand? Or is it just like Venice, you know, full of water? And this is, of course, it's the power of the media. The media needs to focus on all the positive aspects of Bangladesh, which is there, and there are a lot.
We can't demand from the media that you do this, you do that. I mean, we have got to show.
I don't see the media
right
as
picture.
something separate.
Right.
We are part of the media.
True.
We are part of, as you would say, you know, world public opinion. So we ourselves have a responsibility back home also to focus on the good things. To focus on
show us the right picture, and
exactly,
we will
the positive
display.
Contributions that women every day in our country make, for example, you know,
Right.
not just the garments, but in general, and not just, you know, acid victims and things like that. Not to focus on that, or someone who's chopped off the hand of a person, but look at the courage of that woman to continue her education.
Right.
That is the more important aspect.
That is true. I mean, one can see
from sensationalization to focus on, you know, the more positive, heroic aspects of human nature, I would say.
Like picking your point, you see, like the recent Sawar tragedy. See, I mean, so many people died, so many people have been injured, and probably beyond rehabilitation. See, but something good came out of this very
tragic. May I mention,
tragic.
if you don't mind, the fact that thousands of people were rescued.
Right.
In such a short time, and that
this is what I
Bangladesh
going
was
to say.
ready for this
This is what I was going to say,
eventuality.
that
Yes.
you know, something good came out of this very sad tragedy, that
Exactly.
people united, you see.
Of course, it's very sad that people lost their lives, But the fact that, the response, and they still continue to try to find out if there were survivors,
Right.
and also to help the families who had suffered this tragedy, so that is commendable, I must say.
That is, you see, this is the way I look, and this is the positive attitude that we should have, rather than so many people died. Yes, so many people died, but so many people were rescued, and those people who have been rescued, let's hope they will be rehabilitated in the societies. See.
The other thing is the safety aspects, the compliance issues. The fact is the vast majority of our garments industries are compliant, do care about safety. Just one, example cannot say that, reflect badly on all the rest.
Unfortunately, this is one bad news, one bad fish, pollutes the whole pond.
Exactly, and it's not to what can I say, belittle the fact that we do need safety in our garments factories, but we tend to forget that we need safety in all buildings.
True.
Hospitals, schools, apartment buildings. For example, I work in the field of aging. I often wonder, how do we rescue elderly people when they're in a high rise?
Right.
Has anyone, even in the advanced countries, thought about this? They cannot use the staircase, they cannot use the lift, but how do you, rescue someone who's on the 12th floor of a high-rise building anywhere in the world? No one has thought of it. So these are things we need to think about.
I mean, this is why, you see, our topic today is the concern for aging people in the world. Not
you and I are
Bangladesh.
aging. Everyone is aging. It's not just
we're all
elderly
aging
people.
every day, every hour. See.
And the other thing that I want to, the other point I want to make is that we are aging inside.
True.
And that is reflected in our behavior.
True.
So mental health is a very big priority. And mental health does not get the importance that it deserves. And it's not just, a medical condition. It's a social condition. And we need to respond. We take for granted a lot of the services that are available in advanced countries. But in Bangladesh, not many people are actually, the public sector is not doing much. And the private sector, there's just, bits and pieces that people are doing.
Yeah, but unless we know that the problem is there, we can't address it.
The problem has always been there.
No, then what is the proportion of this problem? Do we know how many people 60 plus are? See,
I would say about 1/10 of the population right now.
It's said, I read somewhere, it's 8.3 million.
That's right, something,
8.3
more or less.
million, something like that.
That's
it
right.
will increase. The world population of 60 plus or 80 plus
Which
will
is a good
increase.
thing that people are living longer, but my question is, what is the quality of their life?
That is it. See, you can live longer, but is it dragging your days and years, or is it really just surviving or enjoying the life? See?
Is it just a meager existence? I mean, do you still enjoy the same kind of life that you used to when you were energetic, when you were younger? I mean, can you maintain that? And
True.
it is possible because of the scientific developments and also the medical breakthroughs to keep well physically. But the problem is that people are not conscious. People are not aware. And actually, taking care of yourself, your well-being starts from the womb.
Right.
And it's also a big part of our upbringing, our education, a part of our society. But we tend to overlook, and we always, in our culture, it's like the traditional idea is that I'll be taken care of by my son or daughter or my children. Right. But nowadays, what has happened is the nuclear families.
It's not happening. The bright lights of urban centers, they're attracting the young people from rural areas.
Even if adult children want to. And of course, in our country, the rural areas, the villages, and I want to make this point, it's not so bad because they have a community, they still have, larger families, or they have neighbors who look after, or they have someone or the other who's, inquiring about how their elderly neighbor is or their family member is, or they still care. But in the urban areas, it's not the case. In urban areas, it's very difficult now, to get just household help. And let alone have family members do they look after the young children, or do they look after?
You mentioned the garment workers.
Yes.
I mean, the garment workers mostly come from rural areas.
Exactly.
See. So they have been attracted by the bright lights of the cities, not in bad terms, but they can make money here, see. There's more employment opportunity in cities, see. So they have left their parents back in the villages.
So who has taken their place?
Yes, who is looking after them?
It's a big question.
It's a big question. See.
And the role of the carer is changing. You now find that a lot of young unemployed men are back home, but are they actually doing the work of the carer? There was 10 years ago.
The point is, are they really trained? Do they know what they have to do?
The thing is that besides training, one learns, in one's upbringing. Like if you have a very good relationship with your grandmother or grandfather, you have that respect for elderly when you're older.
Right.
And you also want to do things for them because you've had that upbringing when you were young. But how many of us actually get that opportunity nowadays? Do we actually spend time with people who are getting older?
Going back to Dhaka, I mean, how many organizations are there? I mean, I know this.
I would say a handful, about a dozen or so. And actually, we are all part of what is called the National Committee on Aging. And as stakeholders, we sit with the Ministry of Social Welfare, which is the lead ministry, besides the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Women's Affairs and Women and Children's Affairs.
There are organizations for the paralyzed, aged
Exactly.
people.
So social welfare does this, and what we are now doing is trying to bring in the issue of aging, aged people, senior citizens. And they have been working on a policy on senior citizens, national policy on senior citizens for the last, I'd say 7 years or so.
Right.
But no government till now has passed this policy. In fact, when I was last in Dhaka, we were sitting on these committee meetings and trying to draft, what should be our approach. First of all, to give them recognition as senior citizens, people who are 60 and above.
Yeah.
Secondly, to find out what are the services available. You know that this government has what they call the Boyshko Bhata, which is basically a kind of an allowance.
Yes.
But what that allows is just to maybe buy medicine. So
I know the amount, see, which is so...
I think 300, and they're trying to increase it to...
220 taka,
No,
which
it's
is about
300 now.
$3.
It's 300 now. And they're trying to increase it to 500. But it's not a question of money. It's a question of whether the person is actually receiving. And the government is very good about this. They have been able to give the money to the people who really deserve it.
Yeah, I have done a bit of research on that when I was in Dhaka.
Right.
In villages. The money is not reaching. Even though this is a very meager amount, it won't buy anything for them. But it's not reaching everybody.
Yeah, there are some people who are outside, but what I was talking about, the national policy on aging, is that recognition of, people who are 60 and over in Bangladesh as senior citizens would open up their...
What is the retirement age?
Retirement age is, so far it has been something like 57, but now they've increased it to 60. So 59, 60, something like that. But when you...
Is it for both men and women?
In general, it's mainly for the government people. But what happens is that, retirement itself, one should never retire from life.
No, it's not retirement from life, it's retirement
But why I say this, why I say this, like if you compare men and women, it's the men who suffer most because they retire. It's like downhill.
Yes.
Because they're not as social as women, or they don't have as, women are multitaskers, they have so many interests, so many things to do. Men really have a hard time when they retire.
Yes.
And especially
statistics say that a lot of men die very soon after they retire.
Yes, and it's like everything is tied up with their self-worth is their work. So once work is taken away from that, it's like they question their self-worth, they question
the meaning of life differs.
Yeah, why they're living, and like I said, a lot of them also get involved, become very religious and try to impose their views on others, become more religious than they were, So it's very strange, and men don't talk to each other like women do. Women, as you know, they talk.
But not all men.
No, I wouldn't say that. Like, you are very good in, having a conversation and all that. But in again, we should not generalize. But if we see why women outlive men, it's because they're more social. And also because some of them, some of them tend to smoke.
Right.
Or the biggest killers of Bangladeshis is basically diabetes, hypertension, stroke. For women, it's like osteoporosis, paralysis, all these things.
We will talk about these problems and hopefully some solutions about people aging in Bangladesh and elsewhere. And we'll continue the discussion after the short break that we need, and we always say that it's our bread and butter. So we need to take a break. Don't go away. We'll be back soon. Thank you.
আপনারা দেখছেন টকিং পয়েন্ট, সৌজন্যে মাহবুব এন্ড কো অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস।